Okay, so like I said, sex is an illusion, yeah? A bit like a wet dream. And we're going to also tackle the feminine principle is the veil, i.e. the mirror. It's closer to clay and it's closer to the mirror. And the masculine principle is the observer / projector, and it's closer to the potter and it's closer to unity consciousness, yeah? Let me show you how it all works. Now, consciousness, bear with me, the emergent point of consciousness is this. This is all things, all there is, yeah? This is awareness, this is all life, yeah? I've got a series called the Emergent Point of Consciousness, a playlist, go check it out. I explain this in detail. Now, this thing, without a medium, it's just this, is a blob of infinite potential. That's what it is, that's what life is. That's what consciousness is, that's what awareness is. Now, this thing needs a medium, something to allow it to expand. I broke down the Fibonacci sequence, and I also show this, so you can also check that out. It needs a medium, right? So let's assume this medium is what consciousness wants to emerge through, yeah, and experience itself. Now, so this is the medium, consciousness is emerging, yeah, from underneath it. This is the one, this is all there is. But this medium is also it, because nothing's coming from nowhere to come and do anything. It has to separate itself, just like a cell can split itself. Now, if the one wants to emerge or experience, it needs a medium, like I just said. It needs ground, yeah, it needs a receiver, a receptor, form to do so, yeah? A cell can't split itself in a vacuum. It needs something, it needs a container, form, a receptor, something, yeah? Without that, it's not going to happen. Oh shit, I just put water on my paper. Crap. Anyway, apologies. So let's assume this is the medium, yeah? And back to this. Consciousness is emerging through there. Oh my god, it's actually really bad. The devil is a liar. Anyway, you see anyway. So, with this being the medium, hold on. Yeah? Consciousness is emerging. So as it's emerging through the medium and experiencing itself, there will be a part of the one that's closer to the medium, and there's a part that's furthest from the medium. We'll call this the masculine, and we'll call this the feminine. It's still one thing, but it's now separated, and the characteristics and the experience of this versus this are totally different, yeah? Even if we're going to look at panspermia, then let's assume that the emergent point was dropped onto a medium, yeah? As soon as it lands on that medium, again, there's a part that will be closest to the medium and a part that will be furthest from the medium. Let's call that the masculine and the feminine. The experience of this and that are totally different. Okay? So either way, top or bottom, same thing checks out. Now, this is actually really annoying, guys. I do apologize. I put something on here to put my phone on for a second. I didn't realize. Really annoying. Anyway, anyway, whatever. So if we look at this as the veil, yeah, this is the veil, this medium, yeah, the veil separation, or the mirror, also known as the ability to see and experience oneself, yeah. The one is interacting with itself, because the one experiencing itself, yeah. Now, the one forgets that's experiencing itself and thinks that it's seeing something else, but this thing is it, yeah, but this part is closer to this than it. This is the masculine principle, this is the feminine principle. Energetically, this is the seed, the impulse, the light, the projector. It's a very direct energy. It pierces, yeah, it enters, it directs, yeah. Both are form, but both are this at the same time. Don't forget this, two different experiences, yeah? Okay. Now, without the veil, we collapse back to this. So energetically, this feminine principle represents ground, the receptor, form, embodiment, the clay and the egg, yeah? Malleable. It allows form to exist, yeah? It allows this thing to direct it to create, yeah? The egg, and that's why its symbol is this. The embodiment, the receiver, yeah? The container itself. So can you see how this medium itself is not really a medium, but just this? Yeah? To us, it appears as a veil, a separation line, a mirror, and we think we're interacting with it. But basically, it's two parts of the same thing. Two parts of the same coin, yeah? That's what it is. It's a fact. Oh, and if it can be said that we are in our microcosms of experience, then let's assume this is a microcosm, and within your microcosm there is a veil, there's a mirror, yeah? You're interacting with yourself, you see this lady, blah blah blah, yeah? And this happens, yeah? That's basically what sex is. What is happening here in this microcosm? Yo, so this would be like the second part of sex is a debate into the illusion. I don't know what to title this yet, but we're gonna talk about the excuse me, the veil of form, the illusion of sex, and the feminine's closeness to the veil or the mirror, yeah, or the clay of form, yeah? Okay, now the first thing is sex is a story, yeah? It's an illusion. Even from the basic kind of position of realizing that you are your own microcosm of experience and interacting with your own projections and reflections, it checks out, yeah? Okay, now think of it as like a script of the avatar, yeah? A script of the flesh, something the avatar runs, yeah? Okay, now first things first, in this mumbo jumbo macro world we live in, yeah, sex is kind of widely understood as an act, yeah, a sensation, an emotional exchange, yeah? What are emotions? Attachment to the story, okay, good. But what's underneath all of it? It's a narrative of matter, yeah? It's a narrative of the flesh, narrative of the meat suit, yeah? Okay. A couple of things. In order for the very act to happen, you require form. You need form. If you don't have form and you're formless, you can't actually do it, yeah? So if you're Christian and you believe that, okay, the sensations are also interpreted through your avatar, yeah? What we call the nervous system, but it's still the meat suit, yeah? Okay, and the meaning is added by the mind, okay? So if we're just to look at it from a purely sensational standpoint, once again, it's an illusion, okay? Now, let's come a bit into the 3D world and discuss it. First things first, yeah? Well, we've done the first thing. So second thing second. You got to realize that it's no two people ever have the same experience, yeah? Because sex itself does not exist objectively, yeah? It doesn't, there's no such thing, yeah? It's entirely subjective, and it's shaped by your programming during childhood, yeah, or as you grow up, whatever, which is a story of the flesh, a script of the flesh. It's also shaped by cultural myths, yeah, again, which is a story of the flesh. Your hormonal states, again, another story of the flesh. and psychological projection. Yeah? Okay. Now, the reason why it's become a recycled ritual, because that's what it is. Because when you're too entangled with the flesh, you keep doing it as a ritual. And full disclaimer, I used to live in that world, so if not for anything at all, I'm talking to myself. And it's endlessly reenacted, yeah, endlessly, you know, to chase something that's not there and has never been there. You know, people will swing, they will swap, they will role play, they will have, you know, poly type relationships, they will kinkify, they will try all types of weird and wonderful things. Maybe not wonderful, but weird and kooky things, yeah? Because they're trying to capture a phantom, yeah? They're trying to capture something that's not there, a sensation, yeah? They're chasing a high, you know, an experience that they've either never fully had or once had and want to recreate. Either way, you can't catch it. It's never there. It's never quite the same. Even from a purely kind of human, everyday standpoint, you can be with, you know, somebody. After a period of time, it's not the same. It doesn't hit the same, right? Okay. So it's not an objective thing, because if it was, it would be consistent. Now, what are people chasing? Yeah. What are humans chasing? They're chasing their own mental projection, not the act itself. Yeah. Because sex itself is a hologram. It's a hologram of union. Yeah. It's not the union itself. Okay. Let me say that one more time. It's a hologram of union, not union itself. When I say union, I'm referring to unity consciousness, back to oneness, yeah? Where you are experiencing yourself, yeah? Not through another, but you're experiencing yourself in a very deep, intimate way, yeah? In what feels like through another aspect of your own self, but it's you. That's what unity consciousness feels like, that oneness, yeah? So, from a purely human standpoint, sex then becomes a symbol, yeah, of merging or trying to, you know, touch union once again. But the truth is, merging never quite happens, yeah? You know, the two kind of avatars remain locked in their own internal experiences, always. You know, you might have a wicked time, she might not enjoy it at all, or it might just be like, yeah? So it's never quite, you never quite capture it, yeah? That's why sometimes it could feel like the most fulfilling thing in the world, and other times it can feel like the emptiest lie, yeah? Now, the second part of this is, why does form trick you into the illusion? Let me just stop there. So bear in mind, I told you already, sex is the bait into the illusion. So that means that form, because you need form to be able to do it in the first place, form tricks you to re-engage with it, yeah? Because form needs you to be in the illusion, and I will explain that to you. Now, form doesn't trick you out of malice, because form doesn't have an inherent intelligence to try and maliciously kind of trick you. It functions as a veil, yeah, a mirror, yeah, a sort of like, I wrote this down, yeah, like a divider, it's a separation kind of veil, yeah, and it veils the truth, yeah. So the body, which is form, appears to you or us as beautiful, seductive, you know, responsive, but form is temporary, yeah. And the mind interprets the body. When I say the body, you know, the body signals, you know, and creates meaning out of it, and that meaning becomes your experience. Okay. Now, form itself is the ultimate container. That's why I told you, like, you are wherever you think you are, you're not there. Yeah, you're just in the world of form. You're in matter itself. You're in an illusion, a temporary state. Now, with form being the ultimate container, it shows you a lot of things, but it also hides a lot of things from you. Yeah. So think of it like this. A movie screen will show you the visuals, but the screen is not the story, okay? Spider-Man's not actually there, or Neo's not actually there, yeah? So if you mistake the shapes on the screen for life, then that's what the illusion is, yeah? And in doing so, you believe you're interacting with life, but in truth, you're watching your own beliefs in motion. You're watching your own projections play out in front of your own self, yeah? Okay, now, form seduces you because it reflects you back to you, yeah? But only the surface, yeah? And the veil is very like reflective, you know, it's like a mirror. It shows you the illusion of otherness whilst hiding unity behind it. I'm sure you saw from the visual, because I'm going to post the visual before this part so you see anyway, it'll make sense to you. But there's a key point I need to mention here, which is form needs attention to exist. Because without attention, form collapses, yeah? Just like the old saying, when a tree falls in the woods and nobody hears it, doesn't make a sound, of course, because there's no perception, there's no attention, yeah? Before you walk down that road and turn left and look down a row of houses, it's not rendered yet, it doesn't exist, yeah? Because your attention actually gives form life, it brings form to life, just like the potter and the clay, yeah? If the potter is not interacting with the clay is nothing, it's just matter. Yeah, once the potter starts to engage with the clay, it brings it to life. Your attention brings it to life. Now, the clay has a bit of an intelligence, you know, by interacting with you, by tapping into an aspect of yourself where, you know, how do I say this? It's like, because it knows you very intimately, form, yeah, because you're in it at the moment, so it knows what you like, so it can show you certain things even whilst you're, you know, molding it and being in that, when it's in that malleable state, to keep your attention, to keep you feeding their attention, yeah? That's why it's not always going to go your way when you're, you know, playing with the clay, yeah, because it's always not going to be quite, it's going to be missing something, it's going to have that little thing missing or not quite there, so you keep engaging with it. That's how form tricks you, yeah? That's the game of form. Okay, now let's come to the crux of the issue. Why the feminine is closer to clay. And I know people think, oh, it means something that it doesn't. Listen to this very, very carefully and listen very clearly. Otherwise, you're not going to get it. Yeah. In symbolic and energetic terms, the masculine is the seed. It's the impulse, the projection. This is just the way it is. Yeah. Because for one thing to be able to divide itself, there has to be a part that's closer to the mirror and a part of it that's closer to the observer. That is just common sense. Okay, the feminine in symbolic and energetic terms is the ground, the receptor, or the receiver, yeah, or reception, if you like, form and embodiment, yeah? It has to be, because you need the feminine aspect to ground the seed, yeah? You need the feminine receiver to be able to capture the broadcast, the impulse, if you like, yeah? The pulse of energy, it needs to be grounded. We see this even in our 3D world, where the formless, you know, water just falls out of the sky, but the ground is able to then receive that water, yeah? And then out of that springs more life. It's a dance, yeah? Lightning itself strikes, it hits the ground, and in that massive energy, burst of energy, is grounded, yeah? Lightning can't do anything to the ground, just holds it, yeah? Two aspects of the same thing. One is not better than the other. Now, with the feminine principle, yeah, the feminine is the archetype of matter, yeah? The feminine actually embodies it, yeah? It's the very principle of containment, yeah? So if we go back to the potter and the clay, Clay is what takes form. Yeah, the potter interacts with the clay, but the clay is what takes form. Yeah, the egg in the woman is what receives the sperm, or the womb. Yeah, the womb receives the sperm, you know, and where the egg will be in order for life to carry on. Yeah, the womb holds the child, so on and so forth. And this also is quite like, when you really think about it, you see it very clearly, because it's almost like the female or the feminine principle anchors the illusion. Yeah, it has to, because without it, the illusion collapses. But I'll get to that, you see. Now, like I told you before, feminine energy has the ability to ground the formless. Yeah, because again, it's two sides of the same coin. It allows the spiritual or spirit to wear a body. Yeah, so the feminine is the anchor. It allows, it's almost like the kind of, I can't think of it, like some mechanism, yeah, that's able to capture spirit and put it into form, and then push it out in order for all these microcosms to keep coming into existence, for the illusion to carry on. Yeah, so from that perspective, the feminine is the veil itself. Because when we say women are closer to matter, we don't mean in a kind of like inferior way. We mean that they are the mirror itself through which form seduces spirit. Yeah, because they serve as the interface between the visible and invisible. If you think I'm talking shit, women, yeah, know far more than you think, especially when they're tapped into their energy. Yeah, they see what you don't, they hear what you don't say. Yeah, you could be, bro, if you've been around women, you know, they hear what you don't say, they see what you don't see. Do you understand? They pick up on micro details that you can't even imagine. Yeah, if your vibration, yeah, because that's where you are, changes by a smidgen, the woman that's closest to you will pick up on it. You know, that's why people say that women are intuitive, of course, because they are literally the boundary between the invisible and the visible, the seen and unseen, the form and formless. You need that to have the illusion running. That's why the moon represents the feminine principle. You see it, and then it's gone. Yeah, it's in this very, it's still in the same sky, but you can't see it. I'm yet to know anyone that's ever seen a new moon in the sky before. It's right there, but you can't see it. And it's got nothing to do with NASA and their bullcrap. It's not there. It's literally not there. But here's where the beauty is, because during an eclipse, yeah, unity, what happens? The feminine principle and the masculine principle come together, yeah? And one is not stronger than the other. This disc will cover the sun completely, turning day into night. That's a sheer power. That's what unity consciousness looks like. So all the people that tend to mistake the feminine for the destination, people that believe that women are God and all this, like, it's weird. Yeah, stop it. It's weird. You actually sound crazy. You know, you're literally mistaking women for the destination, but they're not. They're just a doorway. Yeah, and this explains in our world the obsession with the feminine form or the female form. Yeah, so culture deifies the body of the woman. It's plastered everywhere. I mean, it's everywhere. Yeah, they sell stuff with it. Their whole multi-million-pound industries with it. People pour like fucking all their resources into OnlyFans pour and all this other stuff. Why? The resources are not anything that's not what you think they are. Resources come back to the original point I made, that attention gives form life. Yeah, so that means all the attention is going towards matter. Yeah, engaging with it, pulling people deeper into the illusion. Yeah, so Do with it what you will. It's up to you. But behind all of this matter, no one truly knows her, because she is just symbolic of that energy. Because behind all of that, she's actually just pure awareness in human form. That's why when women get to a certain age and the body or the matter, their vibrational avatar suits are not vibrating like it used to, a lot of them become very, very self-aware. They become very aware of the reality. They see more, because before they might have been deep into the illusion, because they themselves embody the illusion. Yeah? So the female is the projection, yeah, the projection screen for all internal kind of yearning. She's the living archetype of clay, of the clay, if you like, or of the mirror. Yeah, the veil that separates consciousness from itself. Yeah. Facts, bro. Now, I want to touch back on the point I made with matter and why matter is so kind of like alluring and wants your attention, yeah, and how it keeps engaging you. It's because, like I said, matter has an intelligence, yeah, but not the kind of intelligence that we think. You know, it doesn't think, because matter in its raw state doesn't think, yeah, but it can respond. It has like almost like an inert type of energy, yeah. You know, so just like water in a cup, you know, form will adapt to thoughts, yeah. It's reactive, yeah, it's reactive. You know, matter has always been programmable, yeah, and flesh is no different, is intelligent clay, yeah. So just like how, you know, cells listen, you know, environments shift based on expectation. If you think you're gonna win, you're gonna win, bro. If you think you're gonna lose, you're gonna lose. It's common sense. You're in a container. Anyway, you know, all these things like somatics, neuroplasticity, they're all examples of form responding to the mental frequency broadcasted through it. Yeah. Think back to the potter and the clay. So yes, its form has a reactive intelligence, but it's also a slave to the signal. Yeah, just like the potter and the clay. It obeys the mind, not the other way around. Yeah, which means if you're caught in illusion, yeah, the mirror, the veil, form, yeah, your feminine counterparts will keep reflecting it until you change your signal. Yeah, the clay can't direct the potter. Okay. So think of the veil, yeah, once again, as the layer of reality that separates the observer from observation, yeah, and it's always reflective, i.e. always shows your beliefs back to you. It's always responsive. It obeys emotion. It obeys expectation. If I have clay in my hand and I want to make a cup, you know, my expectation and my emotion, you know, and how I'm interacting with it, it will respond to that. Yeah. And it's also seductive. It draws you into thinking it's real. Yeah. It wants your attention, because without your attention, it collapses. Okay. So yeah. When you think back to people that live in matter, yeah, attention seeking types, you know exactly where they are. You know, and it's also holographic, because all parts contain the whole. All parts of the veil is actually, it can't be separate from the one. It's the one. Yeah. And matter, like I said, the veil or the mirror is ever shifting and is never fixed. Yeah. These are all facts. Yeah. It exists to test your awareness, because we came here to experience and remember. Yeah. So the question then becomes, will you mistake the reflection for the self? Will you worship the form rather than the formless? And most people do, unfortunately, you know. So think of it this way. You're in a dream, and in the dream, you fall in love with a woman. You have sex, you feel joy, you feel pain, you feel longing. You wake up and you realize You never left your bed. She never existed outside of your mind. The feelings were real, but the form was not. This is the game. I wanted to just kind of like add this on, yeah, with a summary, so it's clear, because I realize that it's a longer video, so then we're just clear. And also I wanted to ask myself the question, say if a female was to say, okay, that's all well and good, but how does that fit into my experience as a female, you know, as consciousness having a human experience? And you know, from a woman's perspective, I'm not a woman, I can't be one, I don't know what it's like, I'm not going to even pretend, but I can think based on what I know, what I've seen, what I observe, and give you the best answer I can. And that's what it is, right? So from the perspective of a woman or female, whatever, you're not just the feminine principle, okay, or the form or the body or the veil or the mirror. You're just not that, yeah? You're more than that. Your consciousness itself experiencing itself through what appears to be a woman, yeah, through what appears to be the feminine principle or the mirror or the veil, yeah. The pull you feel towards love, sex, or expression is not wrong, yeah. It's just one lens that consciousness is wearing to remember itself, yeah. Now, the closeness to clay that I mentioned is not judgment, yeah. It's not. It's just a fact, yeah. But besides that, it's actually a sacred role, because without grounding, yeah, without the provision of the veil, the mirror, yeah, without provision of that aspect that you have, which is your embodiment, this life experience wouldn't exist. Yeah, just like the blob of consciousness without a medium to split itself, it can't exist. This experience wouldn't exist. Yeah, it's a sacred role. You hold the power to give form to energy. Yeah, so like I said, just like, you know, you look at, you know, lightning is just unbridled power, right? But you have the ability to ground that power, yeah, and give it form, yeah. If you look at thunderstorm, yeah, tornado, any of those things, you have the power to ground it and give form to that energy through new life, yeah, new expressions of life and new microcosms, so on and so forth. That's a sacred role, yeah. Creatively, emotionally, biologically, you are the bridge between the formless and the formed. Yeah, it's a big deal. Okay, but the trap lies when you start to believe that you are the clay. That's when you start to behave and think like an animal. Yeah, and that doesn't just go for women, it goes for men too. Yeah, it's a fact. Once you fall into the illusion, it makes you kind of crazy. Okay, you gotta realize that you yourself, you're more than the clay. You are the expression. Yeah, through the artist's hands or the potter's hands to actually make that clay. You are it. Yeah, both principles exist in the one. Yeah, and even in the feminine principle there is a masculine aspect, and we've spoken about this. Yeah, now don't believe that you're the clay. Yeah, that's the key takeaway here. And when you start to begin to see yourself not as a body with a soul, hear me out. When you start to begin to see yourself not as a body with a soul, but as a soul dancing through a body, yeah, you begin to reclaim the throne, yeah, of the true feminine. Not as a seductress, oh my god, all these guys want me, you know, I'm the prize, or some stupid shit, or I'm a mother, or I'm a baddie, or all those goofy things. No, you're not that. You are consciousness dancing through that form. Yeah, you are the mirror through which the formless learns to love itself again. That's what you are. Yeah, and that's a big deal to me. Okay.